to share some stats. It may be a little hard to see this, but from Statista, or is it Statista? I'm not sure. It's one of the more, what should I say, accredited and substantial.
Reputable.
Yes, reputable. What did I say? Accredited. More reputable research companies um, report. They report that about 40% of Black women are actually childless, um, and the numbers are about the same for Hispanic women. And for white women, they are about 44% of them are childless. So more of them are without children than we are. And white women who are not Hispanic, um, they say about 45% of them. But maybe they're mixed. I think it is saying that they may be mixed with something else. About 45% of them don't have children. And so I just found that very interesting, because when we think about women, we think about motherhood. And I thought those numbers would have been quite lower. I thought that maybe only 20% or 10% of women in each of those subgroups would be childless. But 40% for Black women is quite a lot. And obviously, there are various reasons. Some people choose not to have children. Some people have trouble having children, or they decide for one reason or the other not to. Evelyn, you wanted to add something?
You were saying that the numbers of women who don't have children was surprising and that you thought it would be lower than that.
Mm-hmm.
I thought the exact same thing. And then I recognized why I thought that personally. If you look at the way that mainstream society typifies the Black experience, it's impossible to believe that a young
Yep.
Black woman does not have at least four
Yep.
children.
Yes.
5 baby daddies, however that's
Yes.
possible. But that isn't the whole story. Those statistics show that that's not the whole story. And I think
Yes.
part of our as a collective society, part of our responsibility is to try and change that negative narrative about
Yes.
Black women, ambitions,
Yes.
feminization, and this whole being too masculine thing if she presents as a leader in any capacity, which I know is a separate discussion, but it ties into the negativity that Black women have been typecast into.
Yes. And I love that. Next week, we're going to talk about women who have problems conceiving and or carrying a child. And one of the reasons why the care for Black women looks different is because of these perceptions that Black women are hyper fertile and that we're hypersexual. There's this belief that, there's no way you have problems having a baby. They assume that, we just popping them out, and that's what we do.
That we feel less pain.
Have more, and we actually have
symptoms are less believed. It's just a mess.
Yeah. And we have more of an issue with fertility than other races of women. But a few of the sources that I was reading made note of the perceptions about Black women and fertility, and the perceptions that people have of us, that we're just these over sexualized women that just have babies left and right, no responsibility. When in actuality, 40% of us, this is documented, don't have children. And we have other people saying things about, how many Black men don't have children. There's no data, but this is the data that shows you that a lot of us are actually not having children. That's almost half of us. So anyway, I just thought that was really interesting. And I just wanted to pick that apart and figure out why. I know why I don't have children, but I do want them eventually. But everybody has different reasons, right? Go ahead, Mrs. Strobo.
So for me, I can probably contribute to next week's show because I was supposed to be the person who had 3 kids, 2 dogs, a husband, and that's just not how it turned out. And when I look back at my medical diagnosis, I look back at the 18 hours I was in labor. I look back at the C-section that I had to have. I look back at the fact that I had passed out on the operating table when I was having my daughter. And people, I kind of like what Raven was saying is that there's just so much pressure to either conceive, and then the next part of that is when you have one, especially when you live in the South, oh, when y'all having another baby. Well, I choose not to, because when you passed out on the operating table and you literally can see white light and you hear, your husband kind of panicking a little bit, like, why is she bleeding so much and what is going on? And then when you wake up, you're actually alive, and
Right.
and you were uncertain for like a moment that you might have not woken up, then why would I put myself in that situation again? You know, to actually have the child that I have now, I did everything leading up to in vitro, and in vitro, I just at that point, there was a point in our marriage where we had given up on having kids, and I just refused to pay the money for in vitro. I mean, I literally know people who paid thousands of dollars for in vitro, and then either they end up getting divorced or they have the one child, and everything works out. It's so many different kind of sidebars we can go with this. And I'm grateful that Evelyn came on and shared, the premise of her comment on the post that you showed, because I think people forget that people have choices, especially Black women. And I always mention it on the show all the time that it's always this 200-page pamphlet on what Black women should be doing, and no one ever talks about, well, they have choices too, and they have options. We're always told what we're supposed to be doing. So, whenever I get that question about why didn't you have more kids or y'all don't want another one, I'm very blunt and very clear that I don't want to have that health experience, that scare that I had before. I want to live to raise my children. Because the other part of this conversation is the mortality rate amongst Black women who are giving birth to children. Like, don't if y'all have been like since I guess like what 2019, 2018, there was an article that came out, where a lot of Black women are passing away giving birth to kids. Kind of what Cannon said, that a lot of their health concerns are being ignored. We're supposed to just be these strong all around women, who's supposed to just be able to take it. Well, you talking to somebody who thought she wasn't gonna make it.
Right.
And
Miss Jobo, okay.
So, that's kind of what I wanted to contribute to the conversation, that we all have choices and options. And I chose I want to be here to raise my daughter. It is not a guarantee that I am going to be, quote unquote, that blessed or lucky again if I decide to have another baby. And, I've even had friends who say, well, maybe you need to get the right doctor, maybe you do this. And I've had to tell them, maybe I just choose not to have another child. End of conversation.
To mind their own business, right?
Right, because the other part of the conversation is Black women are getting exhausted, like very tired of having to explain to people their choices and their decisions. Because I don't see the same pressure being put on any other race of women than us. We're always having to explain why we don't choose to go the patriarchal or the traditional route. And it's just like I say, a lot of times, sometimes you like your mama used to say, when you say, well, why, mama? Because I said so. That's it. I'm not having another child. Why? Because I said so. I choose not to.
And I think a lot of women, I don't know I know it's not just Black women. I know you didn't say that, but I don't know, do we experience it more? I know that women, period, just experience that. But Darn wanted
anything that women experience, Black women experience more, more aggressively.
It's basic math.
Darn wanted to ask something, and then Evelyn wanted to say something.
So to Miss Jovo's point, when my wife had her baby, our daughter, we had to have an emergency C-section. I don't know how much of an emergency it was. I think they was full of shit. But anyways, they said we had to have an emergency C-section, and that was the most scared I ever seen my wife. You know, she was laying on the table, she was conscious. You know, they numbed up, and I was standing right there while they cutting her up and stuff like that. She was shaking and everything, and she was scared. You know, and that experience alone just put me in a whole nother mindset of like, women go through a lot when they're having these kids, and no woman should be pressured to have a baby by anybody, you know. And I think the world don't even realize what women go through, especially men, because we so focused on what we want a kid and this and that. We don't have to go through that. So you know, and we don't have to ever worry about going through that. You know what I'm saying? We can't go through that. So we can't feel what you all are feeling, but you know, but just going, I think a lot of men should just be in that birth room to see what these women are going through, and just try to empathize with them, because it's a scary moment. You know what I'm saying? You don't know if you're gonna lose your wife right there and the baby. You don't know what's going to happen. Mm-hmm. And so I don't think no woman should be pressured into having a baby, because sometimes it can become life threatening, and it's ultimately your life and the baby's life. And you know, it's just messed up that you know, I've always said women have it worse than men, you know, on a lot of levels, because y'all have to deal with so much more. And it's crazy that this is one of the things that you all have to go through that we can't even take off of your shoulders. You know, like we can't have a baby, so you have to do it. You know, we can't even be